Hello everybody, welcome to Adda 247 JAIIB Cab English Medium channel. I hope all of you are doing fine. Today in this special session we'll be talking about the live mock test. As you know that the exam is approaching on 3rd of May, we have the examination, and right now what is required? A, your revision, B, the practice, and C, how you should attempt the mock test. And for that we have come up with an ultimate solution. Solution is in front of you. We want everybody to understand that how to attempt a mock test, and that too in a live environment. Fine, this video will give you insights that how you should eliminate the options, how you should arrive at one answer, and ultimately how you should come triumphed after the examination. Fine, so when we talk about the 100 MCQs which will be there in the actual exam also, all those MCQs you must attempt. That is the first expectation from our side, from all our bankers, because ultimately if we are not attempting 100 questions, we are letting go some of the marks which we could have scored, because there is no negative marking. Okay, so have this agenda in your mind. Always try to solve 100 MCQs in each of the subjects. Okay, so for today let's start our discussion. Let's try to decipher that how you should attempt one test, or for that matter your overall criteria, which is what? Overall your full length mock test. Fine, so yes, today we'll be solving the full length mock test here, and in the actual examination how you will be able to provide all those answers correctly in the stipulated time period, that you will understand via this particular process. So first thing first, always remember to read the instructions carefully. Fine, general instructions are given here, total duration is given, you will be given that what type of symbol represents what. Here you can see you have not visited the question yet, it is represented by this symbol. Not answered the question, this symbol. You have answered, blue symbol. Like that, all these symbols you must remember. Not answered but have marked for review. Questions marked and answered for review will be considered for evaluation. Fine, so answered and marked for review. Okay, so do remember these things, small things, but yes, they are very important. So read all these instructions, they are very important for you. While answering the question, what you have to do, you have to select your answer, click on the button of one of the options only, not multiple options are there, right? So all these are what? These are the instructions. Fine, so in the actual exam also, you have to read these instructions. Otherwise, what will happen? You won't be able to understand the actual thing which will be deciding your fate in the exam. Fine. So after going through these instructions, what you have to do? Simply click on next. Fine. And your paper will give you all those small but yet important final instructions as well, that it is of 120 minutes the test. You will be having 100 questions, 100 marks, and you can unmark your answer by clicking on clear response button. Fine, sometimes we feel that once we have clicked the answer, now how to remove this particular response? So simply clear response will be there. Do not click on the submit button before completing the test or your examination. A test once submitted cannot be resumed. Simply select the language, that will be English. And when we talk about when you have filled the examination form, there then and there itself they have asked you that what type of language you want. So whatever you have selected back then, it will be reflected here also. So I have read and understood the instructions, and I am ready to begin. Now let's just solve the questions. These are the questions in front of all of you. I hope that everybody will be replying in the comment section as well. So when we talk about the time limit, what is the time left? Here is the timer. Top top corner right side. Fine. Top right corner we have the timer also. So this should be kept in mind always whenever you are attempting the mock test, or for that matter actual exam also. So first question, which of the following statements regarding deficit financing in India are correct? Deficit financing occurs when the total income of the government is less than its total expenditure. So when you talk about income is greater than expenditure or income is less than expenditure, total income is less than the expenditure. Expenditure is huge, then deficit will arise. Government can finance the deficit by withdrawing money from its cash deposits, cash deposited in the RBI, or ordering the RBI to print new currencies. Fine. When we talk about the overall criteria of deficit financing from RBI, Deficit financing is the most important source of plan financing, surpassing the revenue and borrowing. No, this is a wrong statement. The third one. Why? Because we do not have that particular criteria where deficit financing is the most important. It is other way around, wherein deficit financing comes second after your revenue as well as borrowing. Fine. So the right answer comes out to be 1 and 2 only. Fine. So 1 and 2 will be the right answer here. Save and next. Okay. I hope that everybody is having the same answer. Fine. Keep on pouring your answers also and doubts as well, because after the session is over, all your doubts will be also addressed. That is the agenda. But right now, focus on solving the questions. Fine. ESG, standing for dash, has become increasingly important for among the stakeholders as a contemporary aspect. It encaps of dash. Fine. And yes, contemporary aspect of dash we are talking about. What is the uh, full form of ESG? First of all, that you have to fill here. Then comes the next question, next blank, which talks about what it has become increasingly important among the stakeholders as a contemporary aspect of dash. That is what corporate governance, or for that matter CSR. It encapsulates dash factors crucial for the assessing the long term and ethical implications of investments in the businesses or companies. Predominantly, dash investors apply ESG criteria to evaluate the potential investment. What will be the right answer here? So we have ESG as environmental, social, and governance. Fine. And the method, or for that matter you can say the modern implication of corporate social responsibility, it is right. And then we have it encapsulate how many factors? Three factors which are crucial for your assessing the long term and ethical implications, ESG. And predominantly the socially responsible investors apply for ESG criteria. So what is the right answer? Correct answer is option C. Fine. Okay, so C, save and next. Fine. Then if the current account balance is 1.5 lakh, a capital account balance is 50,000, errors and omissions they are 20,000. What is the BOP, balance of payment? What will be the right answer here? So balance of payment, simply you have to add your current account balance with the capital account balance, and over the top of that you have to also add the error and omissions. Fine. So all these three added, you will get what? 2 lakh here. 2 lakh plus 20,000 will be what? 2.20 lakh. C is the right answer. Okay. Again, C is correct. Then we have the reform agenda. EASE 8.0, reaches as the EASE Rise, launched for public sector banks, is based on which of the following themes? So when you talk about EASE 8.0, it talks about your artificial intelligence, and it also talks about the customer excellence. Fine. So strengthening the financial inclusion through rural banking, not directly mentioned because we are talking about modern phenomena. Customer friendly banking enabled by the modern capabilities. This was one of the ease reform, but not 8.0. Driving the innovation for business process reengineering and customer excellence. That is the correct answer. Fine. That is absolutely right. Fine. And when you talk about economic development, customer delight, and resilient banking, it is for E 7.0. So for 8.0, it is driving the innovation for business process reengineering and customer excellence. Simply save and next. Okay. So I hope that you are able to understand that what is should be the time limit which you should keep in mind while answering such questions, because ultimately in the examination you have to read quickly, right? ABC Bank, a leading financial institution, is considering investing in a venture capital fund, VCF, XYZ fund. XYZ fund is promising fund with a strong track record of investing in innovative technology startups. The bank's management believes that this investment could provide significant returns and diversify its investment portfolio. However, they are also aware of inherent risks associated with the venture capital investment. ABC Bank has conducted a thorough due diligence process on XYZ fund, assessing its investment strategy, management team, portfolio companies, and risk management practices. The bank has determined that XYZ fund is a sound investment opportunity and has decided to invest an amount equivalent to 12% of its equity capital. Given the regulatory guidelines and the potential risks involved, which of the following statements are the more correct, most accurate regarding the ABC Bank's investment in XYZ fund? What is the right answer here? We are talking about the ultimate regulatory guidelines, fine, for an investment which you will be doing. Okay, so what is the right answer here? VCF, fine. Try to answer. Since the investment is less than 10% equity or the unit of the equity or the unit, the bank does not need to obtain a prior approval from the RBI, whether it is correct or not. As the investment exceeds 10%, the bank must obtain prior approval from the RBI and the exposure will be treated equivalent to the equity for regulatory purposes, right? That will be the correct answer. Always remember, you have to have, whenever there is the investment or for that matter, overall exposure is less than 10%, then your prior approval won't be there. But whenever there it exceeds 10%, then what will happen? Then it will be directly applied that the approval must be taken. So prior approval will be there. Okay, fine. And when we talk about equity or unit, here why this particular statement is wrong? Because as we know that the bank can invest in the AIF only, and whenever the percentage is less than 10%. Fine. So most accurate form will be your option B. Fine. So 12% is more than 10%. Na? Which statements are accurately describing the revised agricultural lending norms and support schemes applicable in financial year 2025-26? So we have statement 1, the enhanced collateral free limit of 2 lakh per borrower effective 1st January applies to the agri and allied activities. Absolutely correct. Under the PSL norms, the banks must ensure 18% goes to the agriculture, including mandatory 10% for SMFs. That is also right. The modified interest subvention scheme MISS offers the short-term crop loans up to 3 lakh at the effective interest rate of 4%, the interest subvention as we call it. That is also right. The Kisan Rin portal enables end-to-end digital monitoring, including the claim processing for interest subvention to improve transparency and reduce the delays. That is again correct. Fine. So all these statements till now are correct. Loans granted to FPOs, farmer producer organization, are excluded from agriculture PSL classification, even if most of the members belong to small and marginal farmer category. Do you think this is correct? This is a wrong statement. Fine. The loans granted to the FPOs, they will be included in the Agri PSL classification. So statement 5 is wrong. Under the AIF, Agri Infrastructure Fund, interest subvention of 3% is available for loans up to 2%. For the post-harvest and community farming infrastructure, the scheme is operational up to 2032-33. So B statement is correct. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. Only fifth statement was wrong, right? Okay, fine. Now let's just talk about the next question, which has a small case, very small case. ABC Limited is a company which sells goods to buyer in Germany on 90-day credit. To mitigate the risk and improve the liquidity, ABC enters into the international factoring arrangement. So when we talk about the international factoring arrangement, we are doing what? Factoring only. And Indian factor coordinates with German factor, fine, import export factor. The German factor evaluates the creditworthiness of the buyer and guarantees the payment in case of default. So import factor and your export factor, they are having their tie-up that who will be giving the money if in case the buyer defaults. While the Indian factor provides advance finance to ABC Exports Limited. Based on this case, which of the following best describes the role of export factor? So export factor guarantees payment in case of default by the foreign borrower. It provides finance to the exporter and coordinates with the import factor, or for that matter it coordinates directly collects the payment from the buyer, or it acts only as the agent for collection. So the right answer will be what? when you talk about the role of export factor, it will be doing what? It will provide the finance to the exporter. That is the first job. And then coordinate with import factor. In case the buyer fails, import factor will give the money to the export factor. Fine. So the right answer is option B. And B is the correct answer. Next question. When we talk about this particular question, the eighth one, why does the interaction between market makers and speculators improve liquidity and orderliness in exchange traded derivative market? So because your speculators, they always stabilize the prices, whether that is the reason why we see the interaction between these two entities improving the liquidity. Speculators, they do not stabilize. Fine, speculation always creates upside down. Fine, because speculators control contract design and pricing. Speculators, again, no contract, nothing of that sort. We are just speculating here because both the groups eliminate the need for clearing houses. We have not seen any clearing house getting eliminated. Fine, because market makers, they provide continuous quotes, speculators supply trading volume and risk taking. Fine, risk taking appetite is where? In the speculators. So D is the correct answer here. Okay, so now see, since this is a live exam, I would like to tell you that one thing we should always keep in mind is this: 13 minutes have passed and we have done only 8 questions, so we have to pick up our speed. That is also the core agenda of this particular session, that you understand the necessity, the particular importance of time as well. Fine. So during the boom phase, the consumption capacity is fully utilized and the products fetch an above normal price, which gives a higher profit. Or for that matter, when you talk about the concept of boom only, in the boom, consumption capacity is fully utilized or production capacity is fully utilized. Like, so first statement is wrong. Directly you can say that A, out of A and B, some answer will be correct. This attracts more and more investment. So in boom phase, do you think that it will have your direct implication? We are talking about not correct. Fine. So incorrect, so we have only C and D to C. So this attracts more and more investments. Investments will be attracted or not? Yes, investments are attracted because we have the product producers market now in the boom phase. Fine. So more investments will be there. To manufacture a greater number of products, entrepreneur purchases new machines and employees work at higher wage rate. Wage rate is quite low. That is why we are heading towards recession. The increasing cost tendency of the factors of production leads to the continuous decrease in product cost, right? So product cost will ultimately fall, or will it increase? It will increase, right? Increasing of the cost tendency of the factor of production, it leads to the increased cost itself. Fine. So fourth statement is also wrong. The fixed income group or the salaried class finds it difficult to cope up with the price increase. That is absolutely correct. We have been asked the incorrect statement, the not correct. So not correct will be 1 and 4. Correct answer would be option D. Okay, 1 and 4. Fine. So read between the lines. Try to, read everything what is written. Do not miss such details, correct, incorrect, like that. Okay. Fine. Till here, everything is okay, right? Fine. Now, which of the following can be inferred regarding the emergence of TechFin and their impact on the financial ecosystem? So TechFin means what? We are talking about some of the technology firms entering into the financial world, like Google Pay. Okay. So TechFin, try to answer this question. Tech fins are primarily the technology companies whose core business is non-financial digital service, but which are expanding into the financial service, Google Pay, right? The competitive advantage of tech fins in the financial services arises mainly from the regulatory arbitrage rather than the customer data and platform scale. So when we talk about the major advantage of TechFin, it is the customer base only, fine, not any kind of regulatory interference. So B is a wrong statement. The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the adoption of digital financial services. Absolutely right. The tech fins leverage vast transaction and behavioral data generated from non-financial activities to offer credit, payments, and insurance services. So TechFin definitely it leverages the data which they hold because they are the technology firms, and ultimately the data will be from where? From the non-financial activities, offering them now credit, payments, and insurance services also like Google Pay we have. TechFins and fintechs operate under identical regulatory framework. No, they have totally different regulatory framework, and ultimately you will find that fintechs are having more regulatory guidelines. So E is also wrong. Expansion of TechFins into finance poses challenges to the traditional banks as well as the regulated fintech. Absolutely right. Competition is there. Okay. So only two statements are incorrect, B and E. So we have the right answer as A, C, D, and F. C is the correct answer. Okay, fine. Now let's just talk about one more question. When we have the price as 45 US dollar, what is the quantity demanded in the market? Question is there based on the quantity demanded. So this we have to calculate. So if you guys can calculate it, uh, do let me know. Okay. What will be the right answer? If the price is 45 US dollar, what is the quantity demanded in the market? Okay, so try to answer this question. 20 units, 30 units, or for that matter, we have 40 units or 50 units. What is the correct answer here? So when we talk about this question, let's just try to answer this. Okay, quickly, let me just give you an overview. When we talk about the price, fine. So the price of your 40 US dollar, quantity demanded is 40, fine. At 40 US dollar, quantity demanded is 40. Then we have at the price of 50 US dollar, we have the quantity demanded as 20. Okay, quantity demanded is 20. Now, when we talk about the slope, we have to find the particular slope for the straight line. Right? So y minus y1, the formula which we'll be using is y minus y1. Okay, we have to calculate this now. So just imagine that you are calculating it in the actual examination. Y minus y1 should be equal to m into x minus x1. From here, what we will be getting? We will get the m, that is slope of the line. So just you have to substitute the values, fine. So what will be the right answer here? M will be equal to y minus y1 divided by x minus x1. That will give you the slope. So slope directly, just substitute these values. We have first 20, then 40, fine. So 20 minus 40, y minus y1, and here 50 minus 40, x minus x1, right? 50 minus 40, you will get what? Minus 20 divided by 10. So the slope comes out to be minus 2. That is your m. Now the question says that ultimately for the price at 45 USD, you have to tell me, okay, that what will be the number of units demanded. So for 45 USD, how you will calculate? Again, the same formula, y minus y1. Okay, y minus y1 will be what? Y minus 40, because this y I have to calculate at 45 USD. Fine, divided by x minus x1, fine. So x is what, which is given as 45 in the question, subtracted by 40 itself. This will give us the final answer for your y is equal to m, which is what just now we have calculated as minus 2, fine. This will be the minus 2. So here it will be 5. So y minus 40 is equal to 5 into minus 2. Y minus 40 will be equal to minus 10. Y will come out to be 40 minus 10, which is equal to 30. So 30 units will be the right answer. Okay, fine. So I hope that this particular uh, problem is solvable for everybody. Okay. So what is the right answer then? 30 units. That is option B. Now let's just talk about the next question. FX retail platform. according to the following statements, which of these characteristics are false? Like false statement you have to tell, not correct. So FX retail platform, ultimately we are having the FX retail platform was rolled out by the Clearing Corporation of India CCIL on 5th August 2019. No, this is absolutely correct. Customers can only purchase USD in spot settlements during the FX retail platform, whether it is only for the spot settlement or we have something else also, right? Not just spot, right? We have the cash, we have Tom. Cash is the same day Tom, the next day tomorrow, as we call it. So this is the incorrect statement. Fine. So the right answer will be option B itself. Need not to go through the other options because already we know that yes, B is the incorrect one. Fine. Then what causes an upward shift in the money demand, the liquidity preference curve, according to Keynes theory? So Keynes theory states that whenever there is the expectation, fine, market expectation is high, that yes, in the future your rate of interest will be high, then your demand will increase right now, fine, because if we are having the money at a lower interest, why not to take now rather than waiting for a higher rate of interest? So an increase in the quantity of money available in the economy, that directly does not say that yes, money demand will increase. Expectations of high future rate of interest, absolutely right. When you talk about the expectation, the speculation that yes, in the future the rates will be high, so let's just grab the money right away. Okay, so the correct answer comes out to be option B. Fine. Which of the following statements correctly reflects the changes in the criteria for classifying MSMEs in India? So we have the four statements here. The new criteria integrates the manufacturing and services under one category, fostering a more inclusive definition of MSME. Whether this is done or not, yes. In now we don't have to, say the separate classification for your manufacturing sector, services sector, right? Now they are clubbed into a single category itself. So first statement is correct. Then we have your the revised definition uses only the turnover criteria, ignoring the investment. Whether this is correct or not? No, that is incorrect. Both investment and turnover. Medium enterprise is now defined having the investment in plant and machinery not exceeding 125 crore and turnover 500 crore. That is also correct. So A and C are correct. Previously, MSME classification was solely based on investment and machinery or equipment with no turnover reference. Previously, we are talking about what? Before the 2020 amendment. Fine, it was having only the investment in plant and machinery with no turnover reference as such. Okay, so the right answer comes out to be only A, C, and D. Fine, so C is correct. Now let's just talk about the another question, and we should look the time also, and what is the time we are left with. Time left is 1 hour 35 minutes. Okay, so we are lagging behind right now. Okay, let's just speed up. Let's just try to solve the questions in a fast manner. Which of the following statements accurately reflects the regulatory expectation and operational restrictions applicable to a bank's relationship with its subsidiary as prescribed by the RBI? Fine. RBI will be prescribing that what all restrictions are there, what all expectations are there from a bank and its relationship with the subsidiary of their own bank. The bank sponsored subsidiary is permitted to independently set up the new subsidiaries, right? Or promote new companies in unrelated business without the RBI's approval. No, you have to take the RBI's approval. That is mandatory. A is wrong. The parent bank is expected to carry out audits of your subsidiaries books periodically and must obtain RBI approval before giving the unsecured advances to its subsidiaries. Absolutely right. Before the unsecured advances, you must uh, give the RBI one heads up, and the RBI must approve that particular aspect. Only then you can lend or give the unsecured advances. The subsidiary is permitted to assess the customer account data of the bank through secure online interfaces, provided the subsidiary has data sharing agreements in place with the bank. So the subsidiaries are not permitted to access the customer data, fine, of the bank directly. You cannot do that. Permission is required. Then any portfolio investment by the subsidiary to acquire controlling interest in another company requires RBI approval. Prior approval is required except when the investment is routed through category 1 or category 2 AIFs established by the subsidiary. So only in case of category 1 and 2 you will find that we do not have any kind of restriction whatsoever. Okay, so RBI's approval, otherwise it will be required. Yes, so the right answer comes out to be only B and D, and that is the first statement itself, first option itself, option A. Yes, B and D. Fine. Now let's just talk about the financial system. A financial system is not just about banks. It is a four pillar architecture. Fine. Financial institution includes what? It includes your markets and instruments like your share, bond, debentures, every instrument is there. Services, the merchant banking services, the advisory services, insurance services, everything is there. Which of the following accurately describes the interdependence of these four pillars in the Indian context? So when you talk about the financial institutions, they provide the platform. Yes, FIs provide the platform only. Markets provide the pricing mechanism. Yes. Then financial instruments, they are the vehicles of the investment as we call them. And financial services, they facilitate the smooth movement of the capital, smooth movement, fine, how the capital will be flowing across various markets. Right. Okay. So yes, that is what we call as the financial system. FI, FM, FI, and FS. Okay. Financial institutions are the only pillars? No, that is incorrect. Financial services are only for HNI customers? No. Financial markets have replaced the financial institutions? It cannot be true. Fine, they are separate entity. Markets and institution. Institutions are the platform. Markets are the actual drivers. Okay, and what is the vehicle? What is the vehicle? The ultimate. You can say. What is the vehicle? The vehicles are your shares, bonds, debentures, fine, the financial instruments. Okay, so we are left now with 1.5 hour. According to the regulation dash of SEBI, merchant banker regulation of 1992, every merchant banker should comply with codes of conduct as per dash of the regulations. Some of the key code of conduct as per the regulation, SEBI regulation are: merchant bankers should make all the efforts to protect the interest of the investors, and they should maintain a high standard of integrity, dignity, and fairness. What is the right answer? As per which regulation of SEBI, every merchant banker should comply with the code of conduct? It is your which regulation? Regulation 13, 12, 11. What is the right answer? Or 14, right? 12, 13, 14, 11. Correct answer is 13 only, fine. And when you talk about every merchant bank, they should comply with the code of conduct as per the schedule 3 of your regulations. So correct answer comes out to be option B. Okay, here option B is the right answer. Next, Pragati Finance Limited, an NBFC, revised its loan appraisal process after observing borrower complaints about the unclear loan terms. Fine, unclear loan terms are there, and that is the reason why the appraisal process has more or less being revised. Now, in such questions, what we have seen in the classes also, we have discussed one thing, that whenever such questions are there, you should do one thing. Try to go through the options first. Fine, chances are there that directly you'll be able to arrive at the answer. Let's just try to answer this question as if this has been asked in the exam, or for that matter, you are sitting in the third exam only. Which of the following practices would most clearly violate the RBI's expectations regarding the loan appraisal communication by the NBFCs? So providing borrower a sanction letter in the language they understand with full details of interest rate and terms, right? So that will not violate, that is the ultimate guideline. Taking written acceptance from the borrower and retaining it for records, yes, acceptance must be taken. Handling or handing over only the first page of the loan agreement with while withholding the referenced annexures citing internal policy. No, all the annexures, all the term and condition must be explained also and provided also for the reading purpose. So the right answer comes out to be C, because that will clearly violate the RBI's expectation regarding the loan appraisal communication by NBFCs. Fine. So C is the right answer here. Then which factor? Here also one case study is there. We have the ultimate case study of finance lease. So Arav Menon, production director at Steelcraft Tools, planned to acquire an advanced CNC machine to improve accuracy and reduce the downtime. Limited by the budget constraints, he considered a finance lease offered by an equipment leasing firm. RF negotiated the specifications directly with the supplier, while the lessor agreed to fund the purchase. Since the lease term closely matched the CNC machine's useful life, RF assessed how assuming maintenance responsibilities and long-term usage risk would affect Steelcraft's operational stability and financial reporting. So, are you understanding what we are trying to answer here? We are talking about the equipment leasing. We are talking about the finance lease, fine, for leasing the equipment. Which factor best demonstrates RF's arrangement reflects the economic ownership of CNC machine, that the ownership lies with that for that machine. Fine, the particular machine will be you can say repaired also by RF, even though legal title remains with the lessor. Fine, so only finance lease is being talked about here. So let's just try to answer. Basically you have to tell me that which of the following, which of these four describes the in the best possible manner your finance lease. Steelcraft bears substantially all the risks and benefits of using the CNC machine throughout a lease period that nearly matches its entire economic life, whether this is correct or not. No, when you talk about the Steelcraft, it is what? The lessor. It won't be bearing any kind of losses. The lessor performs quarterly inspection to ensure that Steelcraft complies with the safety guidelines. Again, this is not correct. Fine. No kind of inspection will be there. The supplier provides free installation and calibration services at the beginning of the contract only. Fine. Only at the beginning, nothing else. Steelcraft receives a small rental concession for the first month during the machine testing. No. Again, this is also not what we talk about the finance lease. Correct answer stays at option C. Fine. One second. The lessor. Okay, let's just review this answer. Since the lease closely matched with the CNC machine's useful life, RF assessed that how assuming the maintenance responsibility would which factor best demonstrate RF's arrangement reflects the economic ownership of the CNC machine. Fine. So RF will be owning the CNC machine, and who will be bearing the risks involved. Fine. So yes, in case of okay, he considered finance lease and RF negotiated the specification directly with the supplier. Lessor agreed to fund the purchase. Fine. Lessor has agreed to fund the purchase. So right answer comes out to be this one. Yes. Steelcraft bears the substantially all the risks and benefits of using the CNC machine throughout the lease period that nearly matches the entire economic life. Fine. That will be the correct answer. Yes, since the lease term closely matched the CNC machine's useful life, RF assessed how assuming the maintenance responsibility long-term risk would affect the Steelcraft's operational stability. Okay, so that is the company only, na? RF's company only. Fine. I thought that it is the lessor. No, that is the company which will be responsible for all the risks. So yes, A is the right answer. Fine. Now let's just talk about the tax buoyancy. What do we mean by tax buoyancy? So the ratio of total tax revenue to the GDP, indicating the government's capacity to mobilize the tax resources relative to the economic size, or for that matter, we have responsiveness of your tax revenue to changes in the GDP, capturing the percentage change in tax revenue relative to the percentage change in GDP. So changes in GDP and accordingly how the tax moves up, how it goes down, the buoyant relationship between the GDP numbers and the taxes, that is what we call your tax buoyancy, right? Okay, so the responsiveness of the tax revenue to the changes in GDP, which is capturing the percentage change in the tax revenue relative to the percentage change in GDP. B is the correct answer. What about other three? Fine, other three. What about them? For your A, then this statement and the last one. First one is tax to GDP ratio, ratio of tax revenue to GDP. Then here the responsiveness of tax revenue to the change in tax rate alone, assuming constant GDP. Then tax elasticity. Lastly, we have the degree or to which the actual tax collection equals the potential revenue. That is your tax efficiency. But the most important one is tax to GDP and your tax buoyancy. Fine. So B is the right answer. Now, which of the following inferences can be drawn about the recent policy orientation, diversification pattern, and land use features in the Indian agriculture? Let's see one by one. The government policy increasingly acknowledges that, one second. Hmm. Government policy increasingly acknowledges agriculture as a sector that requires income support and risk management mechanism, right? So when you talk about this statement, it is absolutely correct. Introduction of the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana, it signifies efforts to mitigate the production risks faced by the farmers. That is also correct. Increasing contribution from the livestock, fisheries, horticulture point towards structural diversification within the agriculture. It has diversified. That is also right. The growth of allied activities has diminished the agriculture's reliance on land as the productive resource. So agri and allied activities combined together, they are responsible for the diversification. So D is wrong statement. Cropping intensity more than 100% indicates practice of multiple cropping in the same land. Fine, same land is there, but you are growing more than one crop. So cropping intensity, if it is beyond 100%, it reflects what? That you are growing multiple crops. Net sown area accounts for less than half of the India's total geographical area. That is also correct. Net sown area is less than half the entire geographical area. Fine. Okay, so geographical area versus net zone area. If we talk about net zone area, roughly it's what 40% or 41%, like that only. The right answer will be A, B, C, E, and F. A, B, C, E, and F. A, B, C, E, and F. D is the right answer. Okay. In India, which legal statute is not permissible for the registration of not for profit MFIs? Fine. MFIs, one particular statute is there, that is Companies Act, fine, which is not at all having any kind of connection here. Not for profit, they cannot be registered under the Companies Act. So B is, C is the right answer. That is your Companies Act. Okay. So yes, C is the correct answer. Investors' dash for savings is fueled by the intent to invest in the business ventures, and which is particularly robust when your capital as robust when capital as production factor yields dash. So when you talk about this particular question, we have, yes, first is demand. Investors' demand for saving is fueled by the intent to invest in the business. Then we have uh, when the capital as production factor yields what? It yields high returns. That is also correct. So then we have the dash for capital or the will to invest hinges on the capital's productivity, or for that matter dash, and capital productivity or dash. So capital productivity or the compulsion, fine. The compulsion for credit or the will to invest hinges on the capital's productivity or returns on investment. And concurrently on the dash, that is what? After your return on investment, rate of interest will come, or for that matter, expense of investing. Fine, we are talking about the interest here. Fine, rate of interest from the theories of interest chapter. Nonetheless, it's understood that capital's marginal productivity experiences a dash as more investments are made within the business. So capital's marginal productivity will diminish and this adheres to the principle of law of diminishing returns. Correct answer will be your option D. Okay. So yes, you have to do scroll again and again. Fine. Scrolling will be done in the actual exam also. So try to do like this only. Read first line and then try to, go for the last option also, because ultimately chances are really high that you have to go through all the options, only then you will be able to arrive at the right answer. Now, if the country's operating surplus is calculated as the sum of rent, interest, profit, dividend, and the values for your rent, interest, profit, and dividend are these: 1500 crore, 1000, 2000, and 500 crore. What is the operating surplus? Simple, you have to add. Okay, add all these. It is mentioned in the question also. Operating surplus is equal to sum of all these. So 1500 plus 500 is what? 500 plus 15 are 2000, 2000 plus 2000, 4000 plus 1000, 5000. C is the right answer, right? Simple questions will also be there. Try to answer such questions as soon as possible. They will save our time. Mr. Raj, a financial consultant, is helping the client set up the VCF. So we are into the 25th question. 1/4 of the questions we will be completing. And what is the time left? Time left is 1 hour 17 minutes. So are we on track or not? What do you think? Okay. So when you talk about this question, Mr. Raj is there, and all the statements should be clear. Okay. Which of the following is a restriction placed on the directors or principal officers of the venture capital fund when applying for the registration for SEBI? So for the SEBI, what will be the right answer? You are applying for the registration for SEBI. They must have extensive experience in managing the venture capital fund. Maybe they can, but whether that should be the only criteria? They should not have been involved in any litigation connected with the securities market. Fine. This particular restriction, if it is there, then you won't be able to apply for registration with SEBI. Correct answer stands at option B. Very simple. Directly, without even going through the case study, you can answer this question. Okay, who popularized the globalization term again in the mid 1980s? It was OECD. So OECD, involving the free movement of goods, services, capital, labor across the borders. So B is the right answer. Then which accurate statement accurately describes the PM Ayushman Bharat Health Infrastructure Mission, PM ABHIM? So it is what? The largest pan India public health infrastructure. That is absolutely right initiative since 2005. PM Abhim was implemented in 2021, but as we calculate from 2005 till 2026 also, this remains as the largest public health infrastructure initiative of our country. A is absolutely correct. Then if when we talk about the next question, with reference to the Demat account beneficial owner identification number under the CDSL, Central Depository Services Limited, consider the following statements. The Demat account in CDSL consists of 16 numeric digits. The Demat account in case of CDSL, yes, indeed, it is 16 digits only. The first 8 digits represent the DPID, last 8 represents the client ID. The Demat account number in CDSL begins with IN. No, in NSDL it begins with IN. Here we are having numeric values only. Correct answer is 1 and 2. A is right. Then, which statements correctly describe the following schemes under the Ministry of MSME? PMEGP provides credit linked subsidies to promote entrepreneurship. And yes, credit linked subsidy is there. The scheme for fund for regeneration of traditional industries, Furti, it organizes the traditional industries into clusters to enhance the marketability. Absolutely right. Aspire, the scheme for promotion and of innovation and rural industries entrepreneurship, it aims to create new jobs and reduce the unemployment through innovative business solutions. So all these three are correct. So 1, 2, and 3 will be the right answer. We have D as the correct answer here. Okay. So you must have seen that in the last 3 or 4 questions, we were able to answer very quickly. Why? Because the questions were simple. In the initial half, till the question number, you can say 20 or 21, the questions were quite huge, fine, lengthy questions were there. Reading them, analyzing them, then answering it takes time. So in the actual exam also, you will see, you will find that some questions you will be easily able to answer. Then comes some hurdle which will be deliberately put by the IIBF, and then again your questions will be of easy in nature. Which of the following statements regarding the capital market in India is not correct? Capital market deals with short term? No, they are for the long term. Primary and secondary markets are the two main segments of your capital market. Yes. SEBI regulates both primary, secondary. Yes. Primary markets facilitates the initial issuance of the securities directly by the issuers to the investors, which is incorrect. Only one. So one only is the right answer. Now, let's talk about the next question. Venture capital fund, merchant banking companies, the stock broking companies registered with the dash. Where are they registered? They are registered with SEBI, right? Insurance company holding a valid certificate of registration issued by the IRDAI. You will find, yes, directly they are holding the certificate of registration. No blank is there. Nidhi company as notified under dash of the Companies Act. So under the 620A, fine, section 620A of the Companies Act, regulated by MCA. Chit companies defined in section 2B of the dash, regulated by the respective state government. So Chit Fund Act 1982, regulated by the respective state government. Housing finance companies regulated by the NHB. So the right answer is what? Option C. Yes, D is the correct answer. Then, which of the following statements accurately reflects the scope and measurement of economic development as distinguished from economic growth? Let's see one by one. Economic development is solely quantified by the metrics. No, not only by the metrics, but also via the quality. Fine. So this is what? Wrong statement. Concept of development extends beyond mere the metrics. Improvement of human capital, it includes the gender equality. It talks about the welfare. So B is correct. Assessing the economic development relies only on quantitative development, quantitative indicators such as national level income, or for that matter, disregarding the changes of social welfare. No, that is wrong. So B is correct till now. Qualitative indicators like HDI, HPI, your literacy rates, they are pivotal for evaluating the economic development. Absolutely right. B and D will be the right answer. Okay. Then we have another question, FRBM Act, a very important act for the fiscal policy. Which of the following can be inferred regarding the intent, constraints, and accountability mechanisms of FRBM Act? Try to answer this question, because here there are 7 statements. FRBM Act aims to impose long-term fiscal discipline by requiring the government to commit to clear medium-term fiscal policies. Yes, that's what we are talking about. Clear-cut policies must be there. Medium-term fiscal policies must be there. Then the act permits the central government to borrow directly from the RBI whenever revenue collection falls below the budgeted estimates. It was the reverse. Fine. They prohibited that you cannot borrow directly from RBI at least for some time. Second is wrong. First is correct. Revenue deficit was specifically targeted for elimination because sustained revenue deficits weakened the government's ability to invest in capital formation. So when you talk about the capital formation, that was weakened, right? Yes. So revenue deficit was specifically targeted to ultimately eliminate, targeted for elimination, because sustained revenue deficit has been weakening the government's ability to invest in the capital formation. Absolutely right. So 1 and 3 are correct till now. The act mandates that guarantee ceilings be revised annually in consultation with RBI to maintain monetary stability. No, guarantee ceilings won't be revised annually. They will be revised what? They will be revised on on the basis of which timeline? Not annually. That is correct. That is very much clear that not annually will be. They won't be having this setup for annual consultation. Prohibiting the RBI from subscribing to primary issuances of government security is intended to curb the reliance on monetized deficit financing. Fine. curb this particular thing. Why? Because every time the deficit arises, you cannot borrow from the RBI and say that we have uh, filled the deficit here. So 1, 3, and 5 till now, these are correct. Short-term cash mismatches cannot be addressed through ways and means advances. No, you can. WMA, you can. Quarterly fiscal reviews to Parliament ensure oversight and transparency, but do not allow deviations from targets without explicit parliamentary approval. What is the right answer? Oversight and transparency should be there, but they do allow the deviations. Fine. If when you talk about the approval of parliament can give approval, and ultimately you will find that this particular target will be revised. So the right answer comes out to be 1, 3, and 5. A is the correct answer. Fine. Now let's just talk about another simple question. What do the terms velocity of money and money multiplier tells us? Simply, velocity of money is what? How many times the money is used? Fine. How it has been used from one shopkeeper to another, then one another shopkeeper to your some individual, like that. Money multiplier, it simply tells that how the money will be multiplied from the base money to the actual money supply. So the velocity of money refers to how many times money is used to buy the goods and services, whereas money multiplier describes how much the banking system can increase the money supply from the base money. This is absolutely correct. B is the right answer. Then in colonial India, who was responsible for the first calculation of national income? It was Dadabhai Naroji. Yes, C is the right answer. Then we come to the next question, which talks about your Niti Aayog. So, which of the following can be inferred regarding Niti Aayog? Niti Aayog functions as the institutional platform to address coordination challenges arising from overlapping policy responsibilities. So, when you talk about Niti Aayog, yes, that is what we are talking about, the central state coordination, cooperative federalism. Effective internal governmental intergovernmental coordination becomes critical in the sectors where delayed decision affects the developmental activities, right? This is also right. Then union government may intervene in state or concurrent list subject to the address the national priorities or externalities. That is also right. Fiscal federalism promoted through Niti Aayog reduced the implementation responsibility of states. Rather, it has increased, right? So D is wrong. States often acts as the implementing agencies for union initiatives due to their administrative reach. Whether this is correct? Yes. States will be the implementing agencies. Niti Aayog replaces constitutionally mandated federal institutions. No, when you talk about Niti Aayog, it is for cooperative federalism. So F is also wrong. We are left with what? A, B, C, and E. A, B, C, and E. C is the right answer. Okay. Then, which of the following statements are correct regarding REITs and REMFs, real estate mutual funds? So, REITs invest directly in the income generating real estate properties, yes, distributing the major uh, portion of income to the investors. That is absolutely right. REITs are required to distribute a significant portion of their earnings as dividends, again correct. REMS, they may invest in shares and securities of real estate companies. Whether this is correct? Yes, absolutely right. We have the right answer as 1, 2, and 3. In REMS, they will be able to invest in the shares and securities of real estate companies. Next, which of the following statements about the IMF and its history they are correct? So when you talk about IMF, its history, simply you have to understand that one thing is very, very important here. When we say that only IMF was created at the Paris Peace Conference after the World War, answer is no. It is a you can say outcome of Bretton Woods Conference. I can see it on the option B. The IMF is specialized agency of the UN created in 1944 at the Bretton Woods Conference. Absolutely right. B is the right answer. Okay. So now we are entering into question 39. Consider the following credit ratings for long-term debt instruments assigned by the Indian credit rating agencies. CRISIL AAA, AA plus A, triple B minus. Which of the above are considered high investment grade in India? So high investment, your AAA, AA plus and A, they are the high grade. And when we talk about triple B minus, that is not a high grade, it is on the borderline. The right answer is 1, 2, and 3. B is the right answer. Fine. HIS, HIS. Fine. Do remember this acronym. Investment and speculative grade apart from the high investment. Okay. For equipment leasing services through subsidiaries, which of the following statement is true? So banks are not permitted to form the subsidiary companies for undertaking the equipment leasing services. No, they are permitted. Subsidiaries companies formed by the banks of equipment leasing services must primarily engage in direct lending services. There is no clause as such, right? Subsidiary companies formed by banks for leasing activities, equipment leasing services require prior approval from RBI. They should primarily engage in leasing activities without direct lending or other unauthorized activities. That is absolutely correct. C is the right answer. Now let's just see time. Fine, because again I'm telling you time is of essence in IE and IFS. 1 hour 3 minutes are left. Let's just pick up our speed more, a bit more. We have to be, on the right track as compared to the time here. What is the primary purpose of the implementing the narrow banking concept for troubled public sector bank with high NPA? Narrow banking means you just focus on some type of activities. Fine. Do not expand your business. Fine. To allow these banks to engage in wider range of investments? No. To mandate that these banks invest only in long term high risk asset? No. Already you are having NPA. How the high risk? How to compensate for any high risk investment? To permit these banks to invest their funds solely in the short term risk free asset as a strategy for safe rehabilitation. C is the right answer again. Now, considering the regulations for priority sector lending of your the PSL guidelines based on ANBC COB, whichever is higher, which of the following are incorrect? Fine, try to answer this question. Incorrect has been asked. Foreign banks with fewer than 20 branches must allocate 40% of the ANBC or COB to the total priority sector. Yes, up to 32% to export lending. That is a correct statement. Small finance banks must direct 75%. No. Earlier, they used to be having the threshold of 75%. Since May 2025, it has been reduced to 60%. So B is wrong. And that can be the right answer. Domestic commercial banks and foreign banks with 20 or more branches are required to allocate 18% of ANBC or COB, whichever is higher, to agriculture, with half of this to small and marginal farmers. Still here the statement is correct, 18%. But whether it is half for the SMFs? No, 10% for the SMFs. So C is also wrong. So B and C are incorrect till now. RRBs must allocate 15% of ANBC or COB to the weaker sections, higher than the requirement for domestic commercial banks. That is absolutely right. RRB is 15% to the weaker section. So correct answer comes out to be only B and C. B is the right answer. Okay, because we were asked the incorrect statement, right? Okay, which of the following elements are not taken into account when determining the owned funds? Fine, you're talking about the owned funds. Okay, not taken into account. Your owned funds, no borrowing, no kind of losses, no kind of shares, no kind of investment in some other subsidiary, your own fund. So accumulated balance of loss, revenue expenditure, and other tangible assets. Whether this is correct or not, we will be having what? All your uh, basic parameters. We will be having the preference shares, and we will be having your ultimate the debentures also. Fine, the preference shares, the capital reserves, your supplies, all these will be including. Fine. Okay. Investments in the shares of subsidiaries, companies in the same group, and all other NBFCs. Directly, when you talk about a particular group who is having some stakes in the subsidiary, do you think so that that will be having that as your owned fund? Book value of debenture, bonds, outstanding loans, including hire purchase, lease finance made to and deposits with subsidiaries and the companies? No, again, that is not. All of the above will be the right answer. Not taken into the account. Not taken. All of these are not taken into account while calculating the owned fund. Fine. Okay. And what about the calculation? What all will be included? Simply your paid up capital, your preference shares. We will be having some part of funds from the sale of your assets, right? So like that, the money which will be there with you, fine. Okay. Now let's talk about the fiscal deficit. Gross fiscal deficit is calculated how? By subtracting the total revenue receipts and non-debt receipts from the sum of total expenditure and loans minus the recoveries. Fine. That is your gross fiscal deficit. Correct answer is option A itself. Fine. So total revenue receipt and your non-debt receipt from the sum of total expenditure and the loans which you have minus the recoveries. Fine. Okay, the excess amount of your total you can say expenditure and your total revenue. In the revenue you exclude the borrowings. Simple. Now next question, the dash stage is associated with the research and development where ideas, processes related to high technology or innovation are tested on dash scale. So we are talking about what? The seed capital stage here, fine, which is still on the laboratory scale, fine. You do not have a particular finalized product. At this stage, a prototype product development is carried out, and VCF typically invest with high risk perception. Correct answer is option A itself, right? A is correct. Now, for your microfinance loans, what will be the right answer? RBI, yes, RBI's norms on simplified fact sheets and disclosure of fee for your microfinance loans. The regulated entities, uh, they are mandated to provide protective microfinance borrowers with standardized simplified fact sheet containing pricing related details. So yes, that is what we will be talking about. Simplified details must be provided to the borrowers. No complicated statement should be shared. Fine, all those details must make sense to the borrower. All charges levied on the microfinance borrower by the regulated entity or its agent partner must be transparently disclosed in the fact sheet. Fine, you must disclose everything. Charges not listed in the fact sheet may still be imposed on the borrower if approved by the board of regulated entity. No, that is a wrong statement. So third is wrong here. The requirements of issuing a simplified fact sheet also applies to secured microfinance loans granted to the borrowers from low income household. Low income household. Whether this is correct? Yes, this applies to everybody. Regulated entities are allowed to impose prepayment penalty if the microfinance loan is prepaid within the first 6 months. There is no prepayment penalty whatsoever. So fifth is also wrong. We have third and fifth as wrong statement. What about sixth? No amount can be charged to the borrower unless it is explicitly stated in the simplified fact sheet. That is absolutely correct. The correct answer will be what? 1, 2, 4, and 6. 3 and 5 are wrong. A is the right answer. Fine. Now consider the following statements regarding SEBI regulations on the REITs. So one by one, let's just try to answer this question. The SEBI introduced SEBI regulations in 2014, right? That is correct. For the first time when the legal framework for REITs were introduced. India's first publicly listed REIT, the Embassy Office Park REIT, was listed in April 2019. Yes, that was listed 2019 only. SEBI REIT regulations, minimum 80% of REIT total asset must be invested in the completed or income generating properties. That is absolutely right. REITs are required to distribute minimum of 100% of their net distributable cash flows. Fine. To unit holders at least once a year? No, every 6 months. So this is also wrong. REITs in India, they are prohibited from investing in the agri land mortgages except mortgage backed securities and other REITs. So whether this is correct or not? Yes. When you talk about the statement fifth, that is also right. Correct answer comes out to be 1, 2, 3, and 5. Fourth only is wrong. Rest all are the correct statements. Fine. Now, which of the following statements best describe the conceptual rationale for the classification and impact on the broader Indian financial system when we talk about government securities being categorized as gilt-edged instruments. So they are called gilt-edged because they are physically printed with a gold leaf border to prevent counterfeiting and ensure high resale value. Well, this is correct or not? Earlier, gilt was termed as a particular very hard paper, which was very difficult to you can say damage. Okay, but right now in present day, whether this is correct or not, they are sovereign instruments issued by the RBI on behalf of the government, carrying practically zero risk of default. Fine, we have you can say compared the zero damage with the zero risk now. Consequently, the yield of your government securities serves as the risk-free benchmark rate, providing a base for the pricing of your corporate bonds, bank loans, and other fixed income derivatives. Absolutely correct. B is the right answer. Simple. Next, we have for the interval fund. Let's see the time also. What is the time which we are having right now? 49th question and 53 minutes are left. We have 51 questions and 53 minutes. Per minute, one question must be solved. Vikram Suri invested in the Crestline Interval Growth Fund, a close-ended scheme that allows ultimately uh, only allows transaction only during its officially scheduled 2 days window. That is what is your close-ended scheme, right? These windows are spaced more than 15 days apart. Again, second characteristic. And Vikram must wait for each interval to adjust his holdings. Outside these periods, the fund does not accept any purchase or redemption requests. During each window, Vikram can transact directly with the fund at terms disclosed beforehand, ensuring predictable but limited liquidity throughout the fund's tenure. So, which operational modification would most fundamentally breach the regulatory definition of an interval fund? Breach. Limiting Vikram's redemption eligibility to every alternate transaction window. That is not no breach. Fine. Alternative transaction window is open. You can go. Allowing Vikram to submit the purchase order on any day with actual execution deferred to the next interval window. No, not on any day, only on the specific day, which is minimum 2 days. Fine, the 2 day window must be there. Any day is there? No. So that is the perfect breach of your regulatory definition. B is the right answer. Fine. What is the name of the commodity that satisfied the requirement for being given good from these options? Luxury, potato, luxury car, potatoes, diamond jewelry, smart TVs, potatoes, right? Staple diet. Consider the following statements in regard to CRAs, credit rating system. Presently in India, we have how many credit ratings agencies? We have five? No, we have seven, and eighth is pending approval with your RBI. Fine, RBI has not given its approval till now. Okay. Next, the all the five CRAs they have been accredited by the RBI. We don't have five, we have seven, which are being accredited by the RBI. Right. Next question. When you talk about next statement, ratings they are classified into three grades via we have high investment, investment and speculative HIS, which we were just talking about in the double A, triple A, triple B minus question. So third is correct. In all, risk is classified into 14 to 15 categories. Sign plus minus used for further fine tuning the rating. Plus or minus is also used to indicate comparative position. Triple B lies one notch above, that is better than the double B plus also. Fine. So yes, that's what will be the right answer. 3 and 4. B is correct. Now, which of the following best illustrates the concept of structural changes in the Indian economy over a period of time? So, tertiary sector surpasses the secondary sector in GDP contribution, while the primary sectors share they decline. Tertiary sector, fine. Always remember it has definitely surpassed the secondary sector, and the primary sector share is declining. That is absolutely right. That is what we call as the structural change of our Indian economy over a period of time, because earlier primary sector used to dominate the GDP contribution. Now it has been reversed. Now it is not at all even on the second position. It stands at the third position. Okay, next is national income via product or output method. You have to calculate at GDP at market price is given as 28 lakh crore. Depreciation is 2 lakh. NFIA 1 lakh. Indirect taxes 2.2 lakh crore. Government subsidies, we have the 90,000. Calculate the national income, NNP at factor cost. So what will be the right answer? A formula based question. Okay. So simply national income you have to calculate. Again, let's just have a discussion for this formula based question here also. So when you talk about this particular question, what all is mentioned, we have the national income to be found, and we are given with what? GDP numbers at market price. They are given as GDP number at market price is given. Then we have the depreciation also with us. Depreciation is given. So GDP at market price minus the depreciation, you get the net. Fine. In this particular number, you have to add the net factor income from abroad. Only then the national income will come. And in case of your uh, NNP at factor cost, you have to subtract the taxes and add the subsidies. Simply just put the values. 28 lakh minus depreciation was given as 2 lakh, plus your net factor income from abroad was given as 1 lakh, minus 2.2 lakh as your indirect taxes, and plus the 90,000, right, as your government subsidies. The right answer comes out to be 25.7 lakh crore. That is the correct answer. Okay, I think so that it is option A. Yes. Yes, option A is the right answer. Okay, so if you know the formulas, a fairly simple question. Now, the ISLM model is theoretically construct is a theoretical construct that explains the relationship between interest rate and income level equilibrium by analyzing which of the following. So simply it analyzes what? The money supply and the money demand curves. So B is the right answer. Some questions directly you have to answer. No need to even think or have second thoughts. With reference to the fiscal targets under the FRBM Act, consider the following statements. FRBM framework mandates the central government to limit the fiscal deficit to 3%. Yes, by 31st March. That is absolutely right. Act provides that central government debt should be limited to 40% of the GDP. Again, correct. And the FRBM framework mandates the general government debt to be limited to 60% of the GDP by 31st March 2025. Right answer will be option A, 1, 2, and 3. Which of the following statements correctly describes the treatment of annuity payments upon the death of annuitant? This question we have seen in our regular classes also, in the revision class also. What is the right answer? It will go to the legal heir or the nominee. Fine. It will be, yes, the remaining installments are payable to the legal heir or the nominee of the annuitant. That is correct. Which of the following statements best explains the connection between portfolio diversification and domestic financial integration? So portfolio diversification, simply across the market you are having some integration, and your financial domestic financial integration is what? Simply into the multiple segments we are integrating the market, right? So portfolio diversification weakens the financial integration? No. It leads to stronger linkages across the market as the participants operate in multiple segments. Very simple. B is the right answer. Now, calculate the value of money multiplier and the total deposit created if the initial amount is rupees 700 crore and the LRR, or not, for that matter reserve ratio, is 10%. So how you will be calculating money multiplier? Simply we have the M naught as 700, LRR as 10%. First of all, we'll be doing what? Converting this LRR into your number only, no percentage sign. So 100 will be divided. So 10 by 100, you will get 0.1, and 0.1 when you divide with this 700, so 700 divided by zero point 0.1, it makes it what? The 10 will go up, 700 multiplied by 10, right answer comes out to be option B, 7,000 crore. Simple. Okay, so formula based questions. I hope that you will be remembering all these formulas. M3 is equal to M naught divided by CRR. In factoring arrangement, which of the following best describes the role of assigner? What is assigner doing? Assigner purchases the receivables and provides the finance to the client. Assigner transfers the receivables to the factor and receives the immediate fund. That is what assigner is doing. Fine. Receiving the funds is what the assigner has the task in front of them in factoring arrangement. So B is the right answer, right? In context of market dynamism, interconnectedness of the financial market can lead to contagion, right? The spread of negative impact. Which of the following describes the conceptual process by which the crisis of NBFC sector can transmit into equity or, for that matter, debt? So whenever we talk about such kind of questions, you will find one interesting thing, that we have to understand the equity and debt market, how they will be receiving some negative growth. What will be the reason? So NBFCs are not interconnected with the banks. No, they are connected. They borrow from the debt market via the commercial paper, and from banks also. Yes. If the NBFC defaults, mutual fund face redemption pressures and sell equity to raise the cash. That can happen, right? Simultaneously, banks will face NPA issues because the borrower has not paid. NBFC is the borrower, leading to fall in the bank stocks, and ultimately the liquidity spiral shows how a localized shock becomes a systematic crisis, the contagion effect. B is absolutely correct. Fine. Now let's just talk about the MFI. Fine. We have Karuna wanted to invest in the financial markets but found direct equity trading too complex. She decided instead to invest in a mutual fund scheme regulated by SEBI. Purchasing the units, she contributed to a pooled fund managed by under the trust structure. The fund manager invested the corpus in a mix of securities, and as we understand, uh, as stated in the scheme's offer document, the particular fund will be there. Karuna appreciated that MMFI created industry standards and she could access the diversified instruments without needing her own trading accounts or market expertise. Now, a large mutual fund, Aster Capital, enters into the short-term funding arrangement with Orion Bank, Orion Bank, through a tri-party repo to meet the liquidity needs during the volatile market conditions. A recognized clearing corporation acts as the tri-party agent, overseeing the collateral allocation, settlement, periodic reevaluation. Everything is done. Midway through the transaction, the market price fluctuates significantly, triggering margin adjustments. Fine. So adjustments will be there. Despite the agent's active administration, both Aster and Orion remain fully responsible for counterparty risk through the particular deal. And these are what? The mutual fund and your Orion is a bank. Which of the following best describes structural reason why this tri-party repo system improve the market liquidity beyond merely automating the collateral handling? Not only the collateral handling, the particular tri-party will be doing what? They will be improving the liquidity also. So because tri-party agents, they impose mandatory credit enhancements that reduce the funding spread. So if the funding spread is reduced, how the liquidity will improve? That is wrong, because tri-party agents create a centralized collateral optimization mechanism that encourages broader range of participation to manage the repo transaction and indirectly deepening the eligible securities pool. Fine. So yes, that is the correct answer when we talk about the other option, because tri-party agents guarantee the completion of all the repo transactions, thus eliminating the counterparty risk. Even if the risk is eliminated, how you will be justify the market liquidity? Fine. Because tri-party agents absorb part of the borrower's credit risk and redistribute it across the participants, preventing the liquidity contraction during the market stress. Fine. So liquidity contraction they will, but whether the tri-party agent absorb the risk also, no, credit risk they don't. Okay. So the right answer comes out to be option B. Next, a newly formed financial services entity applies to become a tri-party agent. Which factor would most likely disqualify it under the RBI's eligibility criteria? So it operates as a clearing corporation but has only 3 years of experience in the settlement, right? That will do what? That will disqualify you. Okay, only 3 years? No, that is not the correct answer. Right? So the first statement itself, I think A will be the right answer. Okay, fine. Oh, wait a second. I think we skipped one question here. 63 we skipped, na? Okay. Hmm. So the same case study of Karuna, you have to tell me that what will be the right answer here. So here the question states, during a tri-party repo, the agent initiates a revaluation event. Which scenario best represents the agent's operational role without altering the borrower-lender contractual obligation? So what will be the role? Agent's operational role we are talking about, right? So the agent recalculates the collateral needs and temporarily transfer ownership of excess collateral to itself. How can it do that? No, ownership cannot be transferred. The agent determines new margin requirements and automatically adjusts the collateral. So margin requirements will be there. While all the financial responsibility for potential loss remains with the parties itself. B is again correct. Fine. Again, B is right, as was there in the first question of this case study also. Now comes the which of the following can be inferred regarding the India's economic impact from 2008 global crisis? A very important question. We are talking about the era of Lehman Brothers crisis. India's GDP growth fell sharply in the third and fourth quarter, and yes, that was correct due to the global shock. Annual GDP growth fell to 6.8%, showing India was partially affected. Yes, India was fully insulated and maintained double-digit growth. No, India was impacted. The crisis led to significant increase in government consumption, cushioning the fall in the private demand. Fine. So fall will be there in the private demand. That is also correct. Downturn originated from domestic banking failures in India. So on not in India, the credit bubble was in USA, not in India. So E is wrong. Lehman Brothers bankruptcy was one of the triggers of the global shock that impacted India. That is absolutely right. So what is the right answer? A is correct. Fine. What was the purpose of General Insurance Business Nationalization Act 1972 in relation to Article 37C? Fine, that we must have what? We must have a level playing ground for all the citizens, no concentration of wealth. The act sought to ensure that concentration of wealth and means of production did not harm the community's common interest. That is absolutely right. A is correct. The act aimed to privatize the general insurance industry. No. The primary goal was to increase government revenue by nationalizing the private insurance companies. That was also not a direct implication. The act was intended to support the foreign insurers by creating a more open market. We are only talking about this General Insurance Business Nationalization Act. Fine. That what will be the code of conduct. Fine. Nothing more. The goal of the act was to prevent economic system from becoming harmful to private interest. No. When you talk about the overall economic system, we were only concerned about the insurance businesses, fine, not the overall economic system. The right answer is your only A, that is option A. Fine. As per the government data, the performance of PSBs, public sector banks, what was the CAR? of PSBs as of September 2025. Last year, September 2025, this was in news. We clocked a number which was approximately 16%, and accurately it is 15.96%. C is the right answer, right? Then comes your primary theorem. According to the primary theorem of bond valuation, there is specific relationship between prevailing market rates and your market price for of your existing fixed rate bond. Fine. So what we are talking about, the specific relationship from the perspective of primary theorem. Primary theorem talks about what? That your rate of interest is inversely proportional to the ultimate bond. Right? Bond value, it will increase if the rate of interest offered is lesser in the market. Bond value will decrease if ultimate rate of interest is offered as a higher one as compared to your bond. Which of the following best describes the conceptual interaction and the resulting impact on the bank's investment portfolio? So bond prices and market interest rates move in the same direction? No. Market price of the bond is essentially independent of the interest rate? Again, no. Bond prices and market interest rates, they move in opposite direction? Yes. When market price rates rise above the bond coupon rate, the existing bond price will fall and below par, so that the yield becomes competitive with the new issues. Fine. So C is the right answer. The inverse relation we were talking about. Next, an Indian exporter sells capital goods worth $5 million to a buyer in Europe on a 5-year deferred payment basis. To eliminate credit risk and improve the liquidity, the exporter sells the entire receivable supported by the bills of exchange guaranteed by the buyer's bank to a financial institution at a discount. The exporter receives immediate payment and is not liable now in case of default by the buyer. So which type of case are we talking about here? Whether it is factoring, bill discounting, forfeiting, or what? Simple. No obligation whatsoever, without recourse. Fine. Or with recourse. It is with recourse. Forfeiting is with recourse and without recourse, and therefore your exporter will ultimately be doing what? Ultimately bearing the brunt in case of default. Fine. Okay. So identify the financial case described in the above, and financial service described in the above case: factoring, forfeiting, bill discounting, or for that matter, last one is leasing. So the right answer comes out to be forfeiting. Fine. When you talk about this question, the exporter receives immediate payment, not liable in case of the default by the buyer. Fine. Who will be ultimately bearing the brunt here? Okay. So without recourse is your forfeiting, and the particular forfeiter will bear the brunt of any loss. Factoring in India, it is with recourse. Forfeiting overall, it is without recourse. Okay. Which of the following statements correctly describe the Keynes motives for holding the cash? Transaction motive, precautionary, and speculative motive. Transaction involves holding cash for the current transactions, bridging the gap. Yes, income and expenses. Precautionary involves holding cash to take advantage of unexpected investment opportunities in the stock. No, that is speculative. Speculative involves holding cash for profit for future changes also. Yes, with the demand for money varying inversely with the interest rate. 1 and 3 is the correct answer. Okay. Precautionary, like something will come in the future, some emergency might come. For that, we are holding the cash, not your cash for investment opportunities. Fine. So 1 and 3 is the right answer. 70th question: the principle of subrogation involves the restitution of the rights of an assured in favor of the insurer. Fine. So your company has paid you, insurance company. Now you cannot go and claim from the third party. The company will claim. According to this principle, when the insurance company indemnifies the insured for the loss suffered, it acquires the right to recover the amount paid from the third party responsible for negligence or loss. So they will sue the third party. A is the right answer. Okay. Then what is the main purpose of SNA? Uniformity. Fine. Remember the keyword: to collect and organize personal financial information? No. To set international rules how the country should trade? No. To provide standardized way, uniformity for the countries to keep record of their economic activities. C is the right answer. Fine. Now we are left with how much? How much? 30 minutes are left, and we are on track, right? In a small village, a group of 8 women who are member of different SHGs decide to form JLGs also. They come from a similar socio-economic background and live in the same locality. These women continue to participate in their respective SHG activities while also being part of the JLG. Okay. Which of the following is the primary benefit of forming JLG? Why you are moving from SHG to JLG? There are some eligibility criteria, but once you move towards JLG, what is your intent? The JLG allows women to borrow larger amounts, yes, without requiring any collateral. That is the correct answer. For more amount, they are moving towards JLG. Are there any eligibility criteria? Yes, you must have good experience as SHG. Only then you can form JLG. But yes, your intent is to have more money, to have more loan amount. Next, monetary policy instruments are changes in the public instruments, changes in the taxation, OMO, bank reserve requirement, or interest rate policy. What is the right answer here? We have your changes in public expenditure, changes in taxation for fiscal policy, A and B fiscal. Open market operation, yes. Bank reserve requirement, yes. What about the interest rate policy? That is also there. So CDE will be the right answer. C is correct. Now, next question, it talks about the proportional or non-proportional. The financial arrangement between the insurer and reinsurer can be proportional or non-proportional. Proportional means three insurers are there. Proportionately, they will be giving you the money if any loss occurs. Which statement accurately explains the loss sharing logic in non-proportional excess of the loss reinsurance contract? Fine. So the reinsurer in that particular case, in this non-proportional case, you will find if the total loss exceeds your retention limit, which is, I think, yes, first statement it is mentioned, the reinsurer only pays if the total loss exceeds a pre-agreed retention limit, the deductible set by the primary insurer. The reinsurer will be paying, fine. It will only pay then. The reinsurer is not involved in small routine claims, but steps in to cover the volatility and catastrophic losses that exceed the primary insurer's capacity to pay from its daily reserves. That is what we talk about as the loss sharing logic. Correct answer is option A. Right? A is correct. Then under the section 45 1A of RBI Act, which of the following statements is not true about the NBFCs? So NBFCs are granted complete autonomy from RBI in all the respect of their operations, including credit dispensation. No, no autonomy is there. All NBFCs must register with RBI. Yes. RBI has deregulated certain aspects of credit related matters. Yes. Despite greater freedom in credit dispensation, restrictions on financing certain types of activities by NBFCs, it still remains. That is also correct. So the right answer comes out to be what? Not true. That is your first one. NBFCs are granted complete autonomy. No. Next, which among these came after 1950? Okay, RBI Act, Banking Regulation Act, State Bank of India Act, SBI Subsidiary Act, Deposit Insurance and Credit Guarantee Corporation Act, or Banking Companies Acquisition and Transfer of Undertaking. So what will be the right answer here? After 1950 we are talking about. So I think 1 and 2 only were before 1950. Then we have 55, right? 55. Okay. 55, 59, then 60, 71, right? 61 and 70. Right? So after, anyhow, after 1950 only, the right answer is your 3, 4, 5, and 6. Next question. Which effects are associated with globalization based on the statements? Increased per capita income, better employment opportunities? Yes, that will happen. Expansion of options for the consumers? Again, true. Decrease in technological advancements? No, there will be increase in fact. So the right answer is 1 and 2 only. C is correct. The appointment of an expert group on forex, popularly known as which committee? Sodhani committee, right? And in November 1990 it was formed. Simply X and Y, A option. So such questions, see, try to answer all the questions which you can in the one go itself, and you read the statement and you have that yes, in the forex we have studied Sodhani committee only, no other option has Sodhani committee. Directly answer will be A and move to the next question. In which year Morarji Desai, the then Deputy PM and Minister of Finance, first introduced the concept of priority sector? So, along with the RBI's consultation in 1967. B is the right answer. Consider the following statement in context of the policy frame by SEBI. So, SEBI will be framing the policy. Let's see what will be the right answer here. The incorrect. Find which of the above statements is are incorrect. So always try to read the first line of the question and the last line also what they are asking. Right? Chances are there they will ask incorrect mostly. Even the every merchant bank should maintain copies of balance sheet, P&L, and statements of financial position. That is correct. Monthly unaudited results, monthly audited results should be submitted. Fine. Second is incorrect now. When you talk about merchant banks, they are what? They are prohibited from buying and selling the securities based on unpublished price sensitivity information during the tenure of the assignment. Yes, you cannot just go and buy and sell the securities when the securities are already having their fixed tenure. This is correct. So they are prohibited. Merchant bank should not associate with any business other than that of securities market. The exception is granted to banks only. No, they can do any number of businesses, merchant banks, not only in the securities market. They can go for the client, you can say the particular client who they are serving, they can directly have their business activities also managed. So merchant banker, they can be associated with the business other than the securities market also. So 2 and 4 are incorrect till now. Lead merchant bank should not associate with the merchant banker without registration and also should not act as such for an associate. Fine. So you should not associate with the merchant banker. That is the prime criteria of becoming the lead merchant banker. Every merchant banker shall appoint a compliance officer to monitor the compliance with prevailing regulation. That is also correct. The incorrect statements are two only, 2 and 4. Yes, 2 and 4. B will be the right answer. Okay, the incorrect statements. Fine. Exchange traded derivatives market. Now we are entering, I think, in the 81st question, and we are left with 22 minutes. So neck to neck. Fine. So consider the following statements regarding the exchange traded derivatives ETD markets. Mhm. Exchange traded derivatives contracts are standardized, yes, including the expiry dates and contract amounts as specified by the exchange. That is absolutely right. Fine. OTC is non-standardized, ETD is standardized. Exchange traded derivatives market. Market participants in ETD markets mainly include market makers, the dealers, and the speculators. Typically, exchange members are present. Absolutely correct. The clearing house in your exchange traded. When you talk about these exchange traded market, you will find yes, and we are on time. The clearinghouse in the exchange traded markets provides a credit guarantee, often requiring a margin to be deposited to the secure trades. To secure the trades, margin must be deposited. That is correct again. Exchange traded markets offer full transaction transparency, but this can lead to a loss of privacy and flexibility. Fine, loss of privacy and flexibility. So we are talking about option 4 also. Then we have what? So there is all of the above. I was thinking that all of the above is not there, so we can eliminate. But yes, let's just read the last option also. ETD markets allow firms to trade non-standardized product tailored to specific needs. No, non-standardized means what? The OTC, which you cannot. So 1, 2, 3, 4 will be the right answer. Option C. High priced cell phone model. Okay. The question is, the law of demand states that there is an inverse relationship between the price of commodity and its quantity demanded. Assuming all other factors affecting demand remain constant, there are certain exceptions to the law of demand. What are these exceptions? Consider the following goods and identify in which goods law of demand is not applied. So designer bag, salt, sugar, high priced cell phone model. What will be the right answer? In all, right? Because designer bag and high priced cell phone model, Veblen commodity, salt and sugar, the staple diet component. So C is the right answer. Okay. According to the NABARD's guideline, how are the loans to SHG determined in relation to their savings? So random, you can give no, not on random basis. You must have one threshold, and normally it is 1:1 till 1:4. You have 25,000 in your savings, then you can be given 25,000 extra as the loan amount, or it can go up to 1 lakh also. That is 1:4. So what will be the right answer? Loans to SHG are fixed at the rate of 4 times their total annual income, regardless of the savings? No, not on the total annual income. It is based on the savings. So A is wrong. Although 4 times can be, but it is directly related to savings. SHGs can only receive the loans up to a maximum of twice of the amount they have in savings without any exceptions. So no, there are certain exceptions. Fine, if the SHG is doing good, the amount can increase also. Banks may sanction saving linked loans to SHG with a ratio ranging from 1:1 to 1:4. But matured SHGs may receive loan beyond this limit also, up to 20 lakh. So right answer is option C. Okay. Yes. Then consider the following statements regarding the SDR. 18 minutes left. Statement 1, the SDR was created as a supplementary international reserve asset in the context of Bretton Woods fixed exchange rate system. Fixed exchange rate system. Fine. Supplementary international reserve asset, right? That was the ultimate focus of IMF back then. After the collapse of Bretton Woods, SDR was redefined as the basket of currencies. That is correct. It is a currency and a claim on IMF? No, it is neither a currency nor a claim. So statement 1 and 2 are correct. B is the right answer. Calculate the value of broad money from the data which is given below. Currency with the public plus your demand deposit, other deposit plus time deposit. Simply add these. Fine. So how you will be adding these numbers? You will have, see, 2. Here is, yes, there is 2. So 0, 0, 7. Fine. 7 and 1. 7 and 6. है ना? So 7 and 6. Do you have any option where 7 and 6 is there? 7 and say, okay, two options are there. Now we have to calculate it fully. Try to calculate using the calculator. Right, I was trying to just calculate these two values, 7 6 7 6, but they are 3. Okay, smart examiner. Fine, so what will be the right answer? Simply we have to add all these, and we will get what, 5 8 7, yes, 660. Here it will be 6 6 6 0 6 6 7 8 3 5, right? So 5 3 8 7 6 6 0. 5 3 8 7 6 6 0. 5 3 8 7 6 6 0. D will be the right answer. Yes, this is correct. Okay, simply we have to add all the 4. Fine. Now consider the following statements. As per the IRDAI, the insurers are required to maintain a minimum solvency ratio of 150%. Yes, minimum solvency should be 150%. High solvency margin indicates weaker financial stability. No, it is the opposite. Higher the solvency margin, your financial stability is more. Fine. So second is incorrect. A only will be the right answer. Now we have another question on SIP, mutual funds. What is systematic investment plan considered? Why this SIP is effective for the investment strategy for Neha? So can we directly go to the options? Let's just try. SIP guarantees high returns in the short term due to frequently large investments. We are not talking about large investment. You can go as low as 100. SIP requires Neha to make investments only during market peaks, maximizing the returns. No, that is not what we are talking about. Not only during the peaks, there will be lows also. You can invest then also. SIP only works for investments in equity and is not suitable for other type of funds. No, it is available for both. SIP helps Neha invest small amounts regularly, benefiting from compounding and rupee cost averaging. So without even going through these 4 or 5 lines, you can directly answer it as option D. D is the correct answer. Okay, in the exam also, I would highly recommend, since the time is less, you feel that yes, there might be some question which will require your attention more. So try to answer then and there such questions which we have just done the last question, and move on to the next question. If you find the time in the end, you can again revisit anytime. Okay, fine. Which of the following statements regarding the certificate of deposits are correct? CDs. Non-resident Indians are allowed to subscribe to CDs. NRIs, they can, right? When we talk about yes, minimum amount of CDs should be 5 lakh, fine, and then multiples of 5. Banks cannot grant loans against CD. You cannot give loan, right? That is correct. Buyback of CDs at prevailing market price can be made only 7 days after the issue. The buyback policy, 7 days. C is the right answer. All of the above are correct. Now, let's talk about the SDGs. Very important. Fine. Every year they ask one question from SDGs. SDG 5, India is not doing good in which SDG? 5 only, gender equality. SDG 10 talks about what? Life on land, reduced inequalities, or for that matter, climate action. Climate action is SDG 13. Simple. SDG 10, reduced inequality, and SDG 15, life on land. SDG 14, life below water. What is the right answer then? We have A2, A2, yes. So A2, B we have as 4, A2, B4, A2, B4, B1, B4. C is the right answer. Okay. So like that, you should answer quickly as soon as possible. Now let's talk about PFRDA, the pension regulator. PFRDA established 2005. Function was set up with a view to promote and regulate developing pension sector. Yes. When we talk about initiative, NPS was launched by PFRDA and thereafter extended to all the citizens in 2009. Do you think so? Huh? No. 2003 PFRDA, not 2005 cross. When you talk about NPS, NPS was officially notified 2003 itself. Fine. So this is also wrong. Jurisdiction, Ministry of Finance, or for that matter, anything else? Jurisdiction. Yes, that will be the correct answer. Which of the following are correct? I think here some option is missing. Huh? Only one pair, only two pair, only three pairs, or all the four pair. Okay, you have to answer like that. Pairs, not the options. Okay, okay. So establishment of PFRDA, ultimately 2013. Function, yes. Second statement is correct. NPS, NPS from 2009, and jurisdiction, Ministry of Finance is there. Fine. So only two pair, only three pair. What will be the right answer? When you talk about function and the jurisdiction, these two pairs are correctly matched. So only two pair will be the right answer, like that. Okay. So confusing question, but yes, you have to interpret while sitting in the exam only. That we are not talking about the options, fine. We were talking about the number of pairs which are matched correctly. Out of 4 pairs, 2 pairs were matched correctly. A good question, I would say. Fine. Which of the following statements accurately describes the utility of GDP as an economic indicator? We are left with 10 questions and 11 minutes. Let's just make it quick. Okay, GDP measures the total monetary value of all the goods and services reduced with the country's border over a specific period, providing a snapshot of nation's economic performance. That is what the indicator of GDP tells us. GDP is used to compare the economic performance of different countries, assess the standard of living by looking into GDP per capita. That is also correct. Rising GDP always reflects improvement in well-being. No, for that we have the HDI. Fine. So third is wrong. 1 and 2 are correct. B is the right answer. Okay, now let's just match A, B with the section and the actual description. Fine. So for the section 27, it is the reissuance of the notes to be done. So we have 1C, and 1C is only in C. Okay, that will save our time. But nonetheless, let's see the others also. Section 28, it talks about recovery of lost, mutilated, stolen or imperfect notes. Section 29, currency notes exempted from the stamp duty. And then your section 30, power of central government to supersede the central board of RBI. Fine. So that brings us again to C as the right answer, CDBA. Okay, who has been appointed as the chairman of expert committee constituted for strengthening the financial soundness of urban cooperatives, UCBs? A very simple question for the UCBs. We have seen a number of times. The expert committee name is NS Vishwanathan Expert Committee. Okay, the expert group headed by NS Vishwanathan. C is the right answer. Fine. Next, we have again UCBs based question. What is the underlying principle of four-tiered regulatory framework for UCBs? Size of deposits of the bank, NPA, geography of these particular banks, or demography of these banks? Simply size of deposits, right? What is the size? RBI announced four-tier regulatory framework for categorization of UCBs via their size of deposit. So A is the right answer. Okay, so announce the four-tier. Okay, same. They are just giving us the next question. Yes. Which criteria is not included in the revised guideline for identifying the financially sound and well-managed FSWM urban cooperatives? Net NPA of not more than 3%. Right. So yes, that is what we talk about when the revised guidelines were framed. So this is a correct statement. It is included, not included. Fine. We have to answer not included. No default in maintenance of CRR SLR. Yes. At least two professional directors must be there. Partially implemented CBS. No, fully implemented CBS must be there. So D is the right answer because it is not included. Fine. Fully implemented must be there. Fine. Okay. Fully implemented. Yes. Next, the RBI announced a fourth year. Again, the same question, the same case. In fact, we will say third question based on the same case. According to the updated guidelines, what is the criteria for tier 2 classification? 1, 2, 3, 4. What about tier 2? Deposits more than 100 crore and up to 1000 crore. A is absolutely correct. Up to 1000 crore. What is the prescribed limit for the UCBs as per the current guidelines for PSL targets? It is 60%, right? So D is the right answer. Fine. Now, for how many SDGs does Niti Aayog have constructed the SDG India Index? So only life below water is not included out of 17. 16 will be the right answer, option B. A person has insured his property whose value is rupees 15 lakh. Actual loss comes out to be 6 lakh. Sum insured is 18 lakh. Calculate the claim amount. Simple. What will be the claim amount here? Do we even have to calculate this? The actual loss is 6 lakh, so you will be given this much amount only. Why? Because the property's value is 15 lakh, sum insured is 18 lakh. Fine. Okay, more than its actual worth, so you will be having the actual loss as your insurance compensation. No calculation needed, direct answer will be 6 lakh. Okay, actual loss. Fine, even if you have more premium, but the loss is 6 lakh na. Fine. What is the impact of the high cash reserve ratio on the LM curve and the economy? So LM curve, high cash reserve means high cash reserve. Simply, your money supply is curbed by the RBI. LM will shift towards left. Simple. So LM curve shift towards right? No. LM shift towards left, resulting in higher interest rate, reduced economic income due to the contractionary monetary policy. Yes, high rate of interest is there, economic income will reduce, and the shift of LM curve is towards leftwards. Fine. So B is the right answer. Okay. So now we are done with all the questions, and the time still remaining is 5 minutes. Okay. So from this particular exercise, what we have learned, even if you are not having great speed in the initial time, do not panic. You will compensate for the initial timings, because chances are really high that in the initial 5 or 10 minutes you will find difficult questions. But do not give up, do not lose hope while sitting in the examination hall that I won't be able to qualify because this is a very difficult exam. No, there will be a mix of every question, every type of question will be there. One marker doable, zero point 0.5 marker very easy, two marker some difficult, some easy. So mix and match will be there. Try to answer all the questions, and always check that whether you have answered all or not. Fine. So this one also we have answered. Yes, we have answered all questions. Yes. So yes, that's how you should attempt, try to attempt. And in case you find that yes, some questions are there which I have to review, you still have 4 minutes with you. You can go back and uh, do the cross checking as well. Okay. So yes, this was it for your test, for your live mock test. And once you submit the test, you will get the scores. Fine. So okay, so yes, that's the score we have as a team. We have completed all the 100 questions on time, and how we can see the solutions, you can go via the, if you want to see the solutions directly, mock test 8 is there in our test series. You can go and see all the solutions. Still, if you find any difficulty, leave your comment below in the comment section of this particular video, and definitely I will be replying to all of you. Okay, so yes, thank you everybody for being patient listeners. This was it for this particular class. I hope that all of you will follow the small important instructions which we gave you in this particular session, because ultimately these inputs will help you in the actual examination as well. So see you guys in the next session. Till then, goodbye everybody, take care, and all the best with your revision part. Fine, try to revise as much as possible.